been a long time since the last time I recorded a video here in this channel. I've got another channel in Spanish. I'm Argentinian, as you can see there. I'm sorry if I miss a word in English or so. But I think I'm in the need of explaining what biodecoding is. Like, I've got several videos on several diseases or symptoms, but first of all, I think it would be interesting for all the audience in this channel to know what this discipline consists of. First of all, is biodecoding a science? Well, that would be, you could give some arguments in favor or not, or against this statement. But in the end, who decides what's science and what's not? It would be science in the sense it's got a methodology. Yeah, that's true. That's one of the requirements for a discipline to become science. But nevertheless, it would be agreeable to say that this is at least a discipline. If you get this, if you can understand this as a discipline, that's more than enough. And what is this discipline about? Why biodecoding? Why bio? Why code? Well, bio, because what we want to understand is the biological logic of every symptom you carry with. The symptom can be a disease or a pain in some part of your body, for instance, or the symptom can be something that's going on in your life and you don't want that to go on, or the other way around, something that you would like to happen in your life and it's not happening. That's a symptom. A symptom is everything you don't like in your life, you don't like about your life. Okay, that's a symptom. So a symptom may be something like, I've got a pain on my shoulder, or a symptom may be a conduct. I can't stop consuming drugs. Or it can be something that's happening around you, something that from the logic of the mind, or the mind's logic, is out of your control. Yeah, from the logic of our unconscious, everything is our control because everything is our creation. And if I'm the creator of everything, I'm the creator of the nice things and the ugly things, the good things and the bad things. For our unconscious, that's to say the same as our soul, there is nothing outside us. There is nothing beyond us, because if I am all that exists, and all that exists is within me, then there's nothing out of my control. I mean, well, I could give some examples, for instance, but I don't want to go on with it, because I want to go with the thing with the biological thing and the codes. The biological. Okay, there are many spiritual paths that are gonna talk about love, I'm gonna talk about being good, etc. Okay, and those spiritual paths are very successful, but not for the patient. Those are very successful for the therapist or for the one that conducts whatever activity they do. Why? Why is that? Well, because that has a lot in common with the general belief. And the general belief in the Western world where we live, the main ideology is Christianism, or the main religion. And Christianism will talk about love, we'll talk about doing things for the others, loving each other as I love myself, etc., etc. So if I create a spiritual path that makes that sort of statement, that's going to remind you of those beliefs that are stuck in the collective unconscious of this part of the world. Doesn't matter if you're Catholic or Anglican or whatever. Yeah, like the Bible is the same for everyone. But that doesn't mean it's going to work. That doesn't mean that ugly things or bad things are gonna stop happening to you. And why is that? Because you have to look at the biology. Biology is what rules. Carl Jung, the psychologist or psychiatrist, he used to say there's no reality if there's not a biology creating it. So the main rule in the biological order is the following. Everything that gave life as a result must be repeated. Everything that gave death as a result must be avoided. So let's say you're in a marriage and your husband is violent. Well, what we need to see there is what happened with your ancestors. If your dad was violent with your mom, well, then what you need biologically speaking is a violent husband, because that gave life to you. I mean, when you were conceived, when you were born, in that timeline, well, there was violence. Your mother suffered violence, but you were born. You were gestated, you were conceived, you were born, you grew up in that environment. So it gave life as a result. And at that stage, your cellular multiplication was at a very fast speed. So it gave not only life, but a lot of life as a result. So that has been taken by your unconscious, that is biological in its logic, as a need. Like, you need violence. I mean, you don't need it from the, it's not a moral judgment. It's a biological judgment. It's how the unconscious works. You need violence because in an you were surrounded by violence in that piece of time in which your cellular multiplying was the fastest. So, but let's say you have another story. For instance, there was violence between your parents, right? Your parents are your first ancestors. But in that violence, your mother was nearly killed by your father because of, I don't know, she was beat up by your dad, let's say, and she was nearly killed. As death needs always to be avoided, what you might have in this biological experience is the opposite of violence. And perhaps you get abandoned by your partner, by your couple, by your fiancé or whatever. And why is that? Well, because what your unconscious remembers is that there was a couple and this and that, and in a certain moment, that couple, one of the members of that couple nearly died because of that relationship. So it has to do with the yin and the yang. Like, it is a contact conflict, right? Contact in yang is violence or abuse. Contact in yin is abandonment. Someone leaving the other. So, as something gave as a result, a death, a probable death, that has to be repaired. So perhaps you have a couple and you're planning to have family, kids and whatever. Well, and in the middle of that, you get abandoned. Or after getting pregnant, you get abandoned. Why is that? Because of the danger. Your unconscious takes this situation as a path leading to death, to a probable death. So the solution for that is being abandoned. I'm taking your parents as an example, but you could look like in your family tree, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, etc. You can go like at least 5 you have to analyze at least 5 generations on top of you. What happened? And you have to analyze first of all your personal life. Your personal life. So this is an example so you can understand why some things happen. The first of all that you've got to analyze is your past. Let's say if you were abandoned at the age of 20 years old and now you're 40 years old and you're abandoned again by a couple, well, the logic is the same. When I was 20 years old, I was abandoned, so, well, now that you're 40, and this is sorted by a pattern that's called Fibonacci. An Italian architect is Fibonacci. Well, at the double of the age, at the double of 20, now when you're 40, you need to be abandoned again. Why? Because when you were 20, you were abandoned and you survived to that situation. So the order that you receive is repeat. Repeat. I'll tell you something that happened to me. I mean, it didn't generate me perhaps a great deal of emotion, but it calls attention. It calls attention. When I was 20 years old, I remember I lived in a monastery. I was sort of a monk. And that was year 2005, 2005. A pope died. That was John Paul II. John Paul II, well, whatever. In 2005. At that time, I was 20 years old. Now, I'm 40 years old. And a pope died. The Argentinian pope. Francis. Pope Francis. So, what's the logic in this? Well, when you were 20, a pope died. Now that you're 40, that's to say the double, now you're doubling the age you had at that time, you need another pope to die. And why is that? Well, because you survived to the first situation. When you were 20, a pope died. So now that you're in the double age, yeah, Fibonacci, you need another pope to die. You understand that? So everything is a repetition or a repairing of something that happened in the past. If what happened in the past was death or certain death or probable death, or for instance the separation of the clan, or a situation in which someone related to you by data was badly seen, I mean seen with like judgment, well, as that is anti-biological, that has to be repaired. That has to be repaired. I'll give you another example. There's a girl here that works in a shop, and she was, I know, well, we were talking about stuff like she's interested in biodecoding, and so, but she doesn't completely understand what this is about and how profound this is, and what you've got to do, and what are the steps that you need to follow in order to heal your life, to heal your symptoms. And she was talking to me about her relationships, and she said, well, I had several boyfriends, but always one at a time. I never in my life been unfaithful. I never in my life cheated to anyone, any of those. It was always one, then I finish with that one, then I get another one, then I finish with that one, and well, those were periods of at least 2 or 3 years. And my question was, tell me, which member of your family was judged being a woman because of, for instance, being unfaithful, cheating on her husband? And she was looking at me, and she would go like, what I hate about you is you're always right, she said. It's not that I'm a genius. It was too obvious. Like, if someone talks to you with that level of emphasis, like, I'm not unfaithful, I'm not cheating on others, I'm not, that's because in your total unconscious, that's your personal life and your ancestors' life, there was someone that was unfaithful, that cheated on someone else, and was judged. And you are that someone. Because if you're everything, there's nothing outside of you. So you're the faithful one, but you're also the unfaithful. So why do you polarize like that? Why do you insist so much in one at a time, never cheat, never cheated? because you want to take distance of that ancestor. That in the end, it was an uncle, I think an uncle. It was related by data. Related by data means that you have a similar date of birth or a similar name or something. Let's say this girl was Gabriela, and her uncle was Angela. So what's the relationship within these names? Well, that they are names of angels, like in the female version, but Angel, Gabriel, Uriel, those names for the unconscious are all the same. So in this case, she was repairing something. She was taking distance, like as if she said, I am not this uncle that was judged because of cheating. And this uncle had something more, and this girl, Gabriela, had something more. And was that his husband, or mate, or whatever, or boyfriend, was poor. And he earned less money than she did. And that's anti-biological. It doesn't mean it's wrong, like morally. It's not wrong morally. But it's anti-biological. It doesn't go through the norm. The mainstream. Like, mainstream is women don't date or don't form couples with men that earn less than they do. And that's the mainstream. Most women wouldn't be willing to go into a couple that, or choose a partner that earns less than she does. But this one, yes. And why was that? Well, that was because this uncle that was badly seen, that was judged by the clan and by the collective, like the society, but mainly by the clan. Because in this unfaithfulness and this cheating, she first of all married someone who was very wealthy, and then he cheated on this one because with someone that was a friend of the first and was also very wealthy. So what's the order that Gabriela is receiving from Angela is, look, I've dated wealthy men and I've been judged by the clan. I've been separated, I've been badly seen, so you have an order of repair. You have to repair this story. You've got to repair this. So what's the solution to this? Get a poor husband. A poor economically, right? Get a husband that earns less than you do, and so on. So she had a husband. She had these two orders of repairing, of polarizing on the other side. Like, healness means, or the process of healness means equilibrium. Synthoms, diseases, are disequilibriums, like polarizations on yin or on yang. Those are the polarizations. So, but let's go on. Let's go on because I want to talk about what biodecoding is. Well, I talked about what bio is. Now I'm going to speak about, or tell you about what the codes are. The codes are things that rule your life. So when we decode, what we are doing is taking out a code and filling that space with another code. For instance, we take away violence and we fill that with love, comprehension, whatever. We take out abandonment and we fill that with company. That's what we do when we decode. Like, the codes are what explains your behavior. The codes are what explains what you go through, what explains your experiences, what explains your diseases, what explains your pains. So, I mean, a code can be, for instance, despair. Despair is one of the codes of addiction. I have another video about addiction. Check a look at that. Addiction is something like, it's not just drugs and alcohol. Like, addiction is a lot of things. It can be behaviors, it can be a lot of things. Addiction is defined as something that does bad to me, but I can't stop doing it. That's addiction. It can be, I don't know, watching TV. It can be TikTok. It can be, I don't know, discussing with my husband. That's addiction. It can be smoking, it can be gambling, it can be a lot of things. Addiction, as you see in other videos, sometimes I play some videos like about that they are not made by me, let's say, but I find them interesting, and I'm at least partially, I do partially agree with what the person is saying. The last one was a rabbi that was talking about addiction, and he said the addiction is not the problem, the addiction is the solution. Well, I wouldn't say it's a solution, but it's an attempt of solution, because it ruins your life but gives you relief. Relief to what? To a code that it's inside you. It can be despair, it could be feeling attacked, it could be feeling isolated. Addiction has like 5 codes. The codes are what explain the symptoms. For instance, the physical symptoms. And you can work on a code just because of the code itself, or because of this physical symptom that's associated with that code. So, for instance, one of the codes of addiction is the separation of the family. So, you can work on the separation of the family because you've got an addiction, or you can work the separation of the family just because it has an emotional impact on you that you don't like, right? So what are we going to do in a session? What are we going to do when we work on you? I'm going to take out a code, like separation of the family, for instance, and put in another code, like the united family or the gathering of the family. That's what we're going to do. Like, it sounds like computers. Well, human beings are not that different from computers. Not that different from computers. We think we rule. We think our mind rules. But it doesn't. Our mind obeys what our unconscious decides. And when we justify our attitudes or our conduct, that's our mind. Our mind is very slow and compared with the unconscious. The unconscious works a million times faster than the mind. Like, the mind works at 40 BPM, let's say 40 BPM, and the unconscious works at 40 million BPM. So your mind will never be able to control your unconscious. That's why, in regards to addiction, for instance, the result of the therapies, conventional therapies that can be psychiatry, psychology, the groups, I know how do you call it here, we call it anonymous narcotics or anonymous alcoholics, those groups, autoayuda, you would say in Spanish, it's like those groups of auto-helpness, I don't know. The results on those are very little. The amount, the percentage of people that can heal with those therapies and addiction in a definitive way, like forever, without falling into addiction again, it's 7%. So it's not very enthusiastic, right? Not very amusing to hear this, but it's the cruel truth. That's why is that? That is because what you are doing there in those groups and in those therapists is trying to control your unconscious with your conscious or from your conscious. Like trying to control your soul by your mind. And that's not possible. That's not possible because your soul is stronger and faster than your mind. So, in the end, yeah, you can have a period in which you resist. But in the end, the unconscious is always gonna win that battle or that race. So, what do we do here? We use your mind to reprogram your unconscious. That's with an exercise that we do with several corporal movements. That's because the unconscious is kinesthetic and the unconscious sees the movement, and with closed eyes and in a sort of hypnosis. And that's how we reprogram your unconscious. So we can decode a code like feeling attacked. I can be addicted because I'm feeling attacked. Attacked physically, attacked in the sense of being criticized. Perhaps that's my code. And that's why I'm addicted to alcohol. I know something. Because you feel attacked, because you feel isolated, because you feel, because of the separation of my family. That's another code. Because of despair. Well, that has a logic that has to do with wars and what are the emotions associated with wars, and what were the reliefs of the soldiers where they were in the front. I've got a video about that. So that's what we're going to do. That's why this is biodecoding. This is biodecoding because it's biological. We go through a biological logic, and because we work with codes. We work with codes. We remove a code, we put in another one. Like you would do, I don't know, with a computer, I don't know. Windows is not working. Okay, let's delete Windows and from another computer install Windows again. Or you've got a broken computer. Okay, then you have to plug a computer that actually works to take out what's wrong in that computer and put in what's right, what actually works. So that's biodecoding. That's biodecoding. So this is I've been sort of a long time. I think this video is gonna be a bit of some long. Well, then afterwards I'm gonna put this in my YouTube channel, so you can just look for Nikos BioDecoding or what's biodecoding, and use the word nikos, and that's gonna appear, and this video is gonna appear. Like it's I don't know, easier than going video by video, like searching in my Instagram feed. Well, I'm leaving you for today. If you have any questions, you can ask. If you've got a synthom, you can ask. You can comment this video, or you can send me a DM, like a private message, and you can tell me something like, I know I've got this disease, what can I do about it? Oh, you'll see that there's a lot we can do. That's all for today. Best wishes. Bye bye.